Her book title kind of says it all, Unfollow Your Passion. It's an amazing title, very provocative. Certainly one of the books that I think I've been recommending time and time again. We're so fortunate to get to hear from Terri. And what I loved about Terri's conversation with us was that not only was she talking about, how to really embrace the inner writer, how to harness some of those things, but also she was talking about her own process, her own journey in the midst of it. And I think what I loved about these things, kind of three big takeaways for you as you listen into Terri's insights as a writer and an author, is say yes to opportunities. You're going to get these things when you're out there creating, putting work out in the world. And part of it is just you need to say yes, and you need to put yourself in positions when you say yes, even if you're a little uncomfortable behind it. The second thing, and this is a really important one, I think, especially as people are in the early stages of creating and working and writing, is that things evolve. Topics in particular evolve. They don't go the directions they are. And if you're not only kind of like guiding by a compass, kind of taking you a direction where you want to go, and you're kind of observing things around you, you'll find that you'll come up with something even better along the way. And the last thing that I think is good for all of us to remember about it is that there is an internal critic that comes out for any author, any writer, any creator. And that critic is really there. It's biological, designed to protect us. And so when you hear these things saying no, 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 remember, it's not that it's sort of something wrong with you. It's just a natural thing. Your idea is to remember that that's part of the process. And so it's okay to be changing, be vulnerable for this change. It's not bad if you have those inner voices telling you no. Just remember, they're designed in that way to protect you. That doesn't mean you need to listen to them. Enjoy the conversation with Terri. And if you enjoy these conversations with modern authors just like Terri, make sure you subscribe. That way you can get updated in your inbox when we have new sessions with authors, creators, and anyone else who can help you never write alone.
Criticism shuts down your creativity, not just your willingness to share it, but your ability to even tap it. So let's talk about that critic for a second. People say, what is it? Is it I'm so hard on myself? The critic is an internalized voice that we get from outside, from our parents, from other people who were critical of us, teachers, the voice of authority. But also the critic is a big dummy that has been installed at the gate to protect you because somewhere in your past, you were vulnerable in some way and you got hurt. And so the powers that be in your brain put a big dumb critic at the door and said, you're not allowed to, you can't go out, you'll get hurt. You can't do this, you'll get hurt. And so we'll bark you back into a corner so that you don't do things that make you vulnerable.
I was doing my research, MFA in poetry.
I looked at programs and I thought, ooh, I like this Emerson. I was living in Boston and I was like, I want to stay here. What do you do when you graduate with an MFA in creative writing? I interned at a magazine. Who knows? But what I ended up doing was getting a job as a copywriter. It was the very early days of the internet where you could look for jobs online, but I still had to go down to like FedEx or something. After a year and a half, almost 2 years of writing about wigs and hair pieces, I would start taking naps at my desk. I was like, it's time for something. We love our professors, but your fellow students are the ones who are worth staying in touch with. And one of them said, hey, we have an opening for an associate editor. Do you want to apply for it? I knew there were people who had more qualifications. I mean, I said to them, look, elephant in the room is that I don't have the publishing experience.
Right.
But I'll tell you what I do have. And this is the magic of transitioning any work experience into other work experience. I said, but I've been working for a few years at a company that is targeting women, wanting to speak to and sell to women. And we are selling a product. And that means making them come back to that print catalog again and again. And what's different between that and a magazine? You're still trying to talk to women and make them come back again and again. So, of course, there were other reasons. But when I said that, I was trying to make it make sense why you would hire someone who didn't have, quite the experience. So I got the job. I felt totally insecure and like an imposter from the first day. But yeah, I started working and doing that. And then it was not a Martha Stewart publication. It was this magazine that it was a hippy dippy magazine that didn't have any money. It couldn't pay its writers. It was in fallen on hard times. And our publisher, deal of the century, sold it to Martha Stewart. I did a daily radio show for the Martha Stewart Show, having had no experience doing radio. I just kept raising my hand. I'll do that. I got laid off 2 years later, as these things go. I looked at jobs online now that the internet was fully functional. And I said, I don't want any of these jobs. Like I just don't want it.
Mhm.
Do I have to do it? No. Can I stay home? I was living the lockdown life like 8 years before anyone else. I was like, I'm just going to stay here.
Your TED Talk comes out here, and that was sort of the first way I was introduced to you. And this thing kind of blew up. I mean, I'm sure when you give a TED Talk, you're like excited about it. But did you have any?
There's a lot of There's a ton of
yours
TEDx talks. There's
Yeah.
200,000. It got featured on the front page of something. It just got attention. It kept going. People think that things can't come out of social media. Some guy who had followed me and said, hey, our company sponsors this event. They're looking for someone. They're obviously looking at lots of different speakers. Do you want to throw your hat in the ring? The organizer was like, so do you have a TED Talk in you? I had toyed with some ideas. I had fantasies, but I didn't think I was important enough to give one. Turns out that actually doesn't matter at all. And I said, I really can't stand the idea of passion and the idea of fate. I started just writing the talk. He didn't even say I had the talk. He said, write it. So every night I wrote and I said, okay, is this the thing? Is this my argument? I figured it out by writing about it. People consume stuff in very short bites, and that talk was only 10 minutes about, and that matters too. 25-minute talk or 20-minute talk, no one's watching those anymore.
I love that though. We figured it out by writing about it. That is for anyone at this point. We talk about like topics evolve, and you learn by writing. You don't learn by sort of having the table of contents at the beginning.
Most people publish their own. There is nothing wrong with it. In fact, when you publish your own, a publisher will look for what does well and will pick it up. And as you guys know, will republish if they like it. I had a friend that happened to. She was thrilled. But I just was like, man, I just want to try it this way. I got an interest from Simon & Schuster. I met with the editor. I talked to her. I got a deal. I mean, this blew my mind because it was during the pandemic. Who knew? I mean, this is how you never, the reason I got the deal I got was because of my husband, TEDx, because I am married to Ted forever, because they looked at that and they said, yeah, you're a good writer, but that is the thing people have listened to. So I took my material that I've been writing and I'm kind of reshaping it to fit what they want. So just a side note for people who you want to publish it your way, you publish it your way. You want a publisher to publish it, you do what they want. And so that's a challenge. But my point is, the editor and she said, make up a TOC, like a table of contents, and start working on that. And I worked on it. I was like, this is not how I like to work. And I showed it to her and she was like, this one, I don't know about this. And I was like, oh. And I said, can I just write, like, can I not, this math problem at the start of the book doesn't work for me. And so I never looked at it again. And I've been writing for a few months now and it's not done yet. I'm flailing through. I said writing a book is like swimming in the dark. You're in a pool, you're not going to die, but you're swimming in the dark and you may hit a wall and you don't know. I say this because I feel the same way you guys do.
What do you advise to people when they are in that discovering, figuring, they're swimming in the dark phase?
If you feel lonely, loneliness is a problem that must be solved the way it must be solved. If you feel lonely in the work, seek camaraderie, write with other people. But the thing about discovery is I don't show my work to people I don't care to hear from. I don't look for everyone to agree on what my work should be. I'm not trying to please everyone, and I'll never try to please everyone because you can't please everyone. And so I have no interest in that. Like someone said to me, I'd love to be a reader. And I was like, I don't really want to hear what you think. Like, I think you have to be really careful about that. I don't think that there's a sense of, she thinks this and what are you, a word waitress? Like, I am not a word waitress. I write what I think is going to work. I seek counsel from people I trust. I do not ask everyone. I do not read it. I might read it to my mom. And you know what? I'm going to teach you a way to give each other feedback. You're about to do some writing, people. And I know you already have a lot of writing you have to do, want to do, need to do, and you already know what that is. But today, I want to give you just a little refreshing, kind of effervescent nudge in a way that helps you do what you're already good at. So when someone says, how's the writing going? How is it coming along? What do you feel, right? It's coming. It's like you're halfway up the mountain and dragging, a duffel bag behind you. I get it. I get that doesn't always feel easy. But what if it did? What if the writing of it, you could free yourself up to do? Well, the question is, when's the last time you felt squeezed? And I mean squeezed like maybe you were squeezed by time. Maybe you were squeezed because someone made a not very funny remark about something you were working on, or just something where you read something of someone else's and felt really jealous because it was so good, and you felt the squeeze around that. That squeeze that's what we call in my world the critic, like that kind of tightening up. When you feel tightened up around your work, very hard to open up, very hard to get at the part that makes you great. We think writing works like this. The muse visits you, whispers in your ear, inspiration flips on, become specialist. You can narrow it if you want. And so I've had the opportunity to do it for lots of different industries. It doesn't matter. I don't care. I happen to do a lot of financial stuff because they just keep calling, because I've been at a lot of their events, but I never picked a specialty. I picked something I liked doing and kept doing it and doing it well. Now, when we think about writing, though, no matter what, because you guys are writing all kinds of different stuff and have all kinds of different walks of life and career goals and, things of your own that you want, but you don't need to be inspired to write. And I say this too to relieve you of that. Because if you wait till you're inspired, good luck. You get inspired by doing the work. Criticism shuts down your creativity, not just your willingness to share it, but your ability to even tap it. The critic is an internalized voice that we get from outside, from our parents, from other people who were critical of us, teachers, the voice of authority. But also, the critic is a big dummy that has been installed at the gate to protect you because somewhere in your past, you were vulnerable in some way and you got hurt. And so the powers that be in your brain put a big dumb critic at the door and said, you're not allowed to, you can't go out, you'll get hurt. You can't do this, you'll get hurt. And so we'll bark you back into a corner so that you don't do things that make you vulnerable. Write without thinking. You're just going to see what comes up and you're going to trust that it's coming up for a reason. You're going to start from scratch and you're going to use your body as well as your brain. I want to come out of this for a second and tell you and say this to your face. This is exactly what I'm saying is you don't just write from the smart part of your brain. I can write a good sentence. I can write a da-da-da. This could move. You and I did the other day, cut the whole piece up by paragraph, all strips. And then I just move them around. I said, what if I started with this? What if it gets you off the computer sometimes? So sometimes you gotta get off.
That's the Daniel Handler, Lemony Snicket's writes entirely. He has a notebook of just notes. He types them up, cuts them up, and he moves them around, puts them on post notes. So you are Lemony Snicket, basically.
Yeah, physical. Sometimes you need to get physical with the work because sometimes you're looking at the computer, you're like, I can't. Like you don't even know what you're looking at anymore. That's as soon as I feel my eyes get like, I don't even know. I go, okay, how long has it been? And I use a timer to see how long I've been working. So when I go to work on the book, I use Toggle. And as soon as I start getting like, I need to order a cardigan. As soon as I start like nosing around and shopping, I go, what time is it? Oh, you've been doing it for an hour and a half. It's time to stop. Like 90 minutes, I'm just done. So take a damn break. Go away, come back, write fiercely. Go away, come back, love it into shape. Write a shitty first draft.